Hey, it's your girl, your favorite paralegal, aka Cassandra Lynn, and welcome to Legal Doc Talk 24/7. Hey guys, so this is a WAC 100 defamation lawsuit update. Um, I think the last that we spoke, I just kind of went over the complaint. And if you are not aware, in early 2024, actually it was the summertime, WAC 100 ended up filing a defamation lawsuit against Media Lab, who is the operator of the World Star hip hop platform, after they decided to release a documentary alleging his involvement in snitching activities, y'all. Um, After the lawsuit was initiated, then they removed it from the platform. But he pretty much alleged in the complaint that it caused him reputational harm, it caused him private and professional harm, and he suffered damages and so on and so forth. And when you think about the allegations that is put forth, that puts you in a false light. But the crazy thing is, in the defamation suit, Wack is claiming that he's not a public figure, but yet you're saying that, like, if you're not a public figure and you're just a regular old individual, then how would they, defame you? How can they? I mean, anybody can defame anybody. Let me take that back. How do you feel like your reputation is gone? Like, if you are a public figure, that means that you have relationships with other public figure, people in the community, and people see you as such, but yet you are claiming you are not a public figure. So make it make sense. But the judge ended up, and we can hop right on to it. So after that, in September, Media Lab files a motion to strike, and they wanted to strike the whole complaint. Okay. And if they pretty much succeeded by doing that, then they can go ahead and file a motion to dismiss the whole case. But on February 25th, they had a meeting, I believe on the 24th, and the judge had to sit down and look at all of the information, and he had to make his ruling. And his ruling was not in favor of Media Lab. So their motion to strike the whole complaint, the whole defamation complaint that was filed by WAC 100, was denied. Now, y'all, it is 15 pages of this, and in no way, shape, form, fashion is your girl. I'm gonna tell y'all something. I did a video, and then I was just like, me reading this and trying to interpret would confuse everybody, because what the judge had to do, if you don't know, the judges interpret the law. So they take elements of the pleading, and they will see how certain laws and other cases can be applied to that and interpret it for us. But in reading it, I was like, okay, there is no way people will understand this. So I had to read it and kind of summarize it myself. So overall, like I said, WAC 100 filed the defamation complaint. The defendants in September filed an anti-SLAPP motion to strike the defamation complaint. The judge denied it. But in that complaint, WAC 100 alleged defamation due to the YouTube video claiming that he was a a federal informant. But the court ended up finding that there wasn't enough evidence of public interest and support the defamation claims validity. What that simply means is that World Star Hip Hop was trying to say, because WAC 100 is a public figure, that he is more likely to be scrutinized in the public eye. And because he is a public figure, he is more prone to um, people giving their opinions about him or saying this about him. And what they posted on their platform was just general information to the public about a public figure. But the court didn't see it that way. Now, the court did take in consideration the actual documentary, but they did not take in consideration the reactions to that particular documentary. But here are 6 statements that was alleged in a complaint that defendants said that Cash Jones, aka Whack 100, thought was defamatory. There were no arrests made other than Cash Jones. Whack 100 was caught on wiretap with Dale Dog conspiring to commit murder. Oh, I'm sorry, conspiring to commit unaliving. This is why his house was raided and led him to working with the police. Whack, also referred to as confidential source number 2. Number 4, Jones has been exposed as a confidential informant in paperwork recently released. They also stated in a documentary that Wack was confirmed as a confidential source. They also stated that why would the FBI be calling a big time gangster like Wack 100 to make sure he's okay unless there is a relationship between the two parties, which could have started when the felon was caught in Texas with firearms. Okay. Those were the statements that was made in the complaint. So this is what Whack 100 deemed as defamatory, because he's saying all of that information is not factual. Now, going back to the defendants, as I said, so World Star Hip Hop was trying to get the whole entire complaint dismissed on the grounds that the complaint was filed as a retaliatory act for publication under the First Amendment. And the conduct in the post of the documentary, um, and they also stated that Wack could not prevail on those same defamation claims that we stated due to both statutory protections under the Communications Decency Act and also in the fact that his denial of the ability to state a claim for defamation under the elements of a public figure. Now, what is Communication Decency Act? Um, the significance of the CDA in this particular case in its provisions of immunity to online service providers from liability for content created by third parties. It aims to protect free speech by preventing service providers from being treated as publishers or speakers of information provided by others, thereby minimizing the risk of excessive self regulation due to fear of liability. So, World Star Hip Hop relied on the CDA to argue that they should not be held liable for the alleged defamatory content in the documentary because this is information that was given to them. And they released this information to the public because they believe that WAC 100 is a public figure. And just like we do on any other celebrity, right? We put out this information to the public for general knowledge. Okay. Now, for World Star Hip Hop to use the Communications Decency Act, there are certain elements in order to establish a claim of an immunity. First, the defendant is a provider or user of the interactive computer service. The cause of action treats the defendant as a publisher or speaker of information, and that the information at issue is provided by another information content provider. So, what they're saying is, once again, that the information was provided by somebody else, but I don't believe that um, the other elements they met. And thus the reason why the judge went ahead and um, denied the whole motion to strike. But we'll get to that in a second. Now, as far as a public figure, identifying a plaintiff in this case, WAC 100 as a public figure is significant because it subjects WAC 100 to a higher level of scrutiny when it comes to statements made about them, as any other information related to their conduct may be considered a matter of public interest. This designation can affect the burden of proof in defamation cases, requiring the plaintiff to demonstrate actual malice. However, mere characterization as a public figure does not automatically render all statements about them as a matter of public interest. A clear connection between the speech and the public disclosure must still exist. So, based off of what the judge gathered in looking at the video, looking at the comments that were alleged, the statements that were alleged in the complaint, he said, okay, we're going to go ahead and deny this motion to strike because the court found that the defendant, World Star Hip Hop, failed to establish that the documentary addressed a public matter of public interest. And the plaintiff sufficiently presented elements of defamation claim to actually proceed. Um, the court interpreted the activities of the parties by examining the allegations to determine whether they constituted free speech activity. Because these days everybody says it's free speech, it's free speech, it's free speech. But once again, the judge has to interpret the activities to see if that indeed is free speech. They also have to emphasize that strict adherence to the form of operative pleading was not necessary for such determinations. The court focused on the content of the speech and its functional relationship to public disclosure, assessing whether defendants' actions participated in or further a matter of public interest. So ultimately, the court aimed to distinguish between what speech was protected and any underlying conduct evidenced by the communication. Lastly, the court finds that the editorial decision to allow the publication of the documentary raises questions about whether it constitutes first party expressive activity rather than merely acting as a neutral platform. Unfortunately, it remains unclear if the documentary was published as a pass through in compliance with the website guidelines or as a form of editorial expression. And that can actually affect how they apply the Communications Decency Act. So it's just like, okay, do you have immunity? Because what was the goal of the documentary? Consequently, the court hesitates to categorically classify the content as solely screened for divergent views without considering the potential for a specific viewpoint being presented for commercial purposes. So, all in all, and I'm sorry, I was reading my notes. So, all in all, um, the court denied World Star's motion to strike the whole complaint. He pretty much sided with WAC 100, and so therefore WAC 100 gets to continue with the litigation process. I know that's what people don't want to hear, but unfortunately that's what it is. So my biggest thing is, it is like, okay, you're saying that you are not a public figure, but yet you're claiming damages as if you are a public figure. But hey, I can't go against what the judge has interpreted. I really can't. This is what the judge says. So it is what it is, and that's where we are at. So the judge is considering the documentary, the contents in the documentary, as well as the statements that were listed in the pleading, and WAC 100 gets to move forward with his defamation claim against Media Lab, who is the operator of World Star Hip Hop. I know it's a little bit different, but it is very because this is the judge's ruling, there is a lot more difficult to break down. So that's why I had to summarize and try to put it in the most simplest terms. Okay. So once again, they tried to say because WAC 100 is a public figure, he is more subject to scrutiny. That's the reason why they put out the documentary. But in the matter of them putting out the documentary, they were trying to say that because he's a public figure, this information is just general information that people may want to hear. But we have to think about the contents that were in the documentary, the accusations, the allegations. And so the judge, the court did find that they were defamatory in that sense. So, y'all let me know what y'all think about this in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until then, you all be blessed and I'm out. Bye.